Hi, everyone. I heard last night's class was really great. I'm coming to you from Chicago.
Hello, everyone. It's Christy Talbot coming to you from my classroom.
All right. You want to jump right into this?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, guys. It was so wonderful. I need my coffee still. It was so wonderful last night. I have to tell you, um, your questions were great. You guys were so polite and to the guest speakers, and I really appreciated that. And they were so moved by you guys that the principal, sorry, classroom. The principal apologized to me for crying, and she said, "I'm sorry if I made it awkward." And what it led to between my team was a discussion about how authentic it was, and that's the reason why we do what we do. And then the speech pathologist shared about her mom having 11 siblings and not having a hearing loss and not getting what she needed, and no one spoke English to get the services, and a teacher actually smacking her ear. And she got very emotional about why she's a speech pathologist and advocates for the kids. And my dad is mentally ill and had challenges, and that's why I'm such a strong advocate. And my sister had dyslexia. So it brought about, we had this discussion after you guys about why we do what we do. And I just want to thank you guys all. You even brought our team closer together in a wonderful way. And I just love who you guys are and what you're taking on in the field of education. So thank you.
All right. So just to kind of review the piece around goals, which was the other part. So it was around collaboration panel and then data-driven decision making for goals. And so the big things are that if a student is struggling with something, then they're not at grade level, then they need a goal for it. So I have here, where did I put it now? I think right here. This is basically what you do. Here's your area of growth. You've then identified and used your data last week, and you turned that in to really show us, hey, here is the examples from the Woodcock-Johnson, from the Brigance, from the work sample of how the child did, and you identified 3 areas. So the suggested IEP goals, first of all, are just suggested, and so you can actually write them, and you can also see. I'm going to actually take the pictures off so that we can see this a little bit better. You can actually see that I've given you in the template for writing a goal. So usually you do in 1 year. So for example, let's see, we'll say 5/20, 2020, comma, when given, and then you'll put those in. So let's go back to the example that we have. So by next year, March 5th, 2019, when given an equation containing subtracting with regrouping, Angel will be able to correctly answer 5 specific word problems with 90% accuracy as measured by teacher records. So you've got all of the pieces in there. So what do you need to do to figure out what the grade level goal is? Well, I would go in here. I would say CCSS, and look, I've already looked it up, reading grade 6. And so I would look to see, click on this. So click on this. I would take a look, okay, if this is grade level, then let's see, there it is. What are the grade level goals? And you can see when you click on the Common Core standards, all of the goals, all the grade levels are right here. Okay, so you can click on whatever grade level you're at. And then they have the sub standards for this as well. So I'm just going to go with the first one, which is around key ideas and details. So cite textual evidence to support analysis of what the text says explicitly, as well as inferences drawn from the text. So going back here, then I would write actually ccss.ela literacy.rl.6.1. And that's fine. So this one has it slightly different. But that's what you're going through, because this was before we adopted the Common Core for this district. So you go through, you write down which goal you're trying to work towards, and then you think, okay, you know what? Citing textual evidence is a really good idea. Now, my student, according to my areas of growth, my student's actually really struggling with that. So what are the supports that he might need to meet that grade level goal? And so that's where you start building everything in the progress monitoring area. So the goal can be more broad, or you can start putting in there that, benchmarks, if you've heard of benchmarks, where you say, okay, well, first I would have him use a graphic organizer for identifying, or maybe a highlighter for highlighting the evidence within the text. And then I would have him use a graphic organizer for coming up with a claim, and then under there, the evidence for that. And then third, I would have him move the graphic organizer into a written analysis. So I would start out with just citing the evidence explicitly, and then after that, I would start helping that student with learning what inferences are and how to draw the inferences from the text. So you can see that this is one goal, but I've now broken it into these different benchmarks, and I've supported the student as I've gone through. So once again, this student must be above 16. So they have, one of the areas of growth was around math, another one was around reading, another one was around writing. Your student may be perfect in their reading and writing and just struggle with math and maybe behavior. Oh, and the transition goal is because you have to have a transition goal if they're 16 or above. So you can really see that your three areas could be in math calculation, and then another area of math that I can't think of right now, but it could be in any of these parts. You could have three goals. Or if it's around English language arts, maybe you have one around key ideas and details, another one on craft and structure, another one on integration of knowledge and ideas, another one on the range of reading level text complexity. So you can see that your goals can actually come from the standards that you're supposed to be meeting. I hope that's helpful. Also, it's good to remember, so if they're not at grade level, they need an academic goal for that area. If they have a behavior problem that's impeding their learning or the learning of others, they need a behavior goal. If they're over 16 or over, they need a transition goals. And then last night, Professor Talbot went over these SMART goals, and then I've given you in the template what that looks like. I'm going to put this back to what that looks like. And so this is just your first attempt. Remember also that with each one of your, when you turn this stuff into us, we give you feedback on it, right? So it shouldn't be too scary this time, but what we do need you to do, because we won't be looking at your areas of growth, we need to make sure that when you put the whole report in, we'll be able to see, oh, here's the areas of growth. Okay, here's their goals. Yep, they match up, and I see where they're going with that. Yes, so that's the SMART goal thing. We've got a few different websites, but use Google. It's a really helpful thing. Maybe even use Google for looking at goals online. That not all goals are written the best, but you can write IEP goals and see, they've got some word banks and things like that. So, there are some possibilities for taking a look at this. Here's the next generation. I'm not even sure if this website works, but these are the types of things that you can start looking into as you're trying to write your goals, which you did last night with your partner. Christy, do you want to go over the critical reflection?
Yeah. So the critical reflection, and we went over this last night, is name 3 lessons that you learned from the panel and how you're going to integrate those things into your teaching. And I know a lot of you said afterwards that there was a lot of great things that you got, so that should be an easier one. And number 2, suggested IEP goals. You're going to insert into your case study. You're going to write them in here for your critical reflection. These will be the ones you insert into your case study, the ones you wrote with your partner. Now, I know it wasn't a ton of time, but you guys did have time to go over and write your ideas down and start getting it together. So then you just got to put it in the critical reflection and then move it over. And like Dr. Jez stated, There's many samples. We gave you work samples, so you should be able to. And also in the toolbox, there's a sample of SMART goals.
There you go.
So thank you.
All right, then we just wanted to remind you that on Saturday morning they have a seminar this week, and so you probably got something in your email from Ed DeRoche or possibly Serena Pariser, but this is only $10 for USD students, and these are some really amazing sessions. So this one's on trauma-informed practices, high expectations in college counseling for youth, urban youth, identity and fitting into the world of work. So I highly recommend that you attend this. And then the last thing is you can see we have added the SPED law, 90 tips in 120 minutes. So next week we're going to be doing an activity on this, but just remember that this is most of special ed is actually litigious. And so you can then see what court cases and what laws are actually in place around supporting students with IEPs or even assessing them. So we just want you to take a look at that. You don't have to memorize it. It's a tool for you to be able to use, but we are going to put you in groups next week to, talk about it and share out in sections. Of course, do your critical reflection. And then here's the big one. We need to see your protocols. And what we'll be doing with them is when we have you in groups next week, we'll be going through and checking your protocol and then giving you a manual grade in class. So what are we looking for when we check your protocol? This is the answer document for the Woodcock-Johnson and your criterion referenced assessments. We're looking to see how you scored it. Did you write down what they said? Did you look for patterns? Did you write qualitative remarks on it? Did you write what time you were testing and who was testing, or any other notes that you observed or observations you had? So we're looking for the error analysis, for patterns, for all of those things. And if you really integrated with the protocols while you were assessing, just like we were training you to do in class. So if you have any questions or anything else, please do reach out. And thank you all for being a wonderful audience for our panel last night.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.